maybe the first time I realized, or should have realized, that I'm special was when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I was like frantically taking pieces of paper and marking like big numbers in them. I was seriously small at that time. My mathematical skills developed at very early age, so that already when I was 4 years old, I was able to verbally count to any number. Obviously, physical constraint limited me to counting only a few thousands because I didn't have the stamina to count any further, but I was able to do it. Likewise, there is a written record of me writing every number in the numeral form, starting from 1, 2, 3, and so on, until very big lengths. I consumed a lot of paper those days. And likewise, I did it with Roman numerals, and I went all the way to MM, meaning 2000, and this happened in approximately year 1986 or 87, so I wasn't even that old. I was born in 1980. So I didn't live to see the golden 70s, but I did live enough to remember when Urho Kekkonen was the president of Finland. Yeah, and that is pretty old. But my special affinity to numbers and to money and to colorful pieces of paper, that manifested itself already very early on. So I would use scissors to cut pieces of paper like this, put the numbers there, stack them all to stuff them in a big bucket or something, sit on top of that and proclaim that I'm Scrooge McDuck. I'm the richest duck in the universe. And so this happened 36 years ago. I grew up in a really small village, Räyskälä, in southern Tavastia, Finland. The place is actually only like 1 hour, a bit more, like hour 15 minutes, depending how fast you drive, from Helsinki. So it is not far, but it's very remote. Because when you think about it, the 80-20 rule, which, by the way, is a corollary of the power law principle, it says that there are only few places in any country that are called cities. So, like even a big country, it only has a few cities that are, nationally mentioned and known. And it has millions of small places, or in Finland case, thousands. Yet, most of the people are actually from the cities. Meaning that the number of people who seriously come from surroundings where there is like nobody with university education around in several kilometers radius, and who actually need to take 45 kilometers to reach the high school, and there is no bus going there, so you either go with your mother and follow her schedules, or if your mother is not available, you figure out. And my figurings out included taking the 45 kilometer ride by bicycle, one way, or taking your, scooter in like sub-zero temperatures, 15 kilometers to the nearest bus stop, which I also did. So actually, when you are young, you think that there is surroundings, your family and everything, you are the normal. You don't think that you are special because the kids don't have that kind of idea. But when you grow up and then you start calculating how many people on Earth, how many people are born each year on Earth, and how many end up or starting in the situation like that, it is actually very rare. So the Finnish schooling system goes so that you, at the time when I started, there was no like preschool, so we directly went to first grade at the age of 7, and then there is 9 years of compulsory education, like completely mandatory one, and then it's 3 years that you can choose either the like practical vocational training or the theoretical preparation for university. So I took the latter one. It's called high school, and it happened in Hämeenlinna, in a very famous high school called Hämeenlinnan Lyceon Lukio, one of the oldest in Finland. Of the dignitaries in Finland, President Paasikivi and composer Jan Sibelius have studied there prior to me. So at that time I started to first time open up to a kind of bigger world. So my first trip to a foreign country happened when I was 16. It is, you know, even then I considered that I am quite old and, you know, retarded in a sense, or like late from having this experience. But on the other hand, the experience went directly to Japan, which for a country boy in 1990s Finland was exotic. So during high school I was I had many mentors who were training me from sort of a distance, you know, treating me very well and pushing me gently towards opportunities that would accelerate my growth greatly. Because, you know, there is still very few people who have university degree in my home village. So that situation hasn't even changed much. But what they did to me is that they exposed me to opportunities, international opportunities, meeting other like exceptionally qualified, or at that time you would say, I do not need your advice when I'm searching a word for myself. Anyway, I clandestinely, without even noticing, got access to the top thinkers of not only Finland but of the world already at the age when I was still living with my mother in a village that didn't even have street lights. So it is very weird, because the dots are something that you can only connect from after the fact. When you are doing the thing, for instance, when you are here, and you know, one day you hear me that, hey, let's have a poker tournament, and everybody drink a lot of alcohol and then play poker and have fun. Then the following morning the order is that nobody is going to drink alcohol under threat of being kicked out of Spec Ops. And the following day we are already, straight-faced proclaiming that we are going to make a revolution in Finland, and it's about time because we have been doing this for 38 weeks already, and it just happens that Finland is the first apple that will drop to our hand. Because it just happened yesterday. And all these things are happening, and when they happen they seem random, meaning that they are not connected, and in fact they are crazy. If you think about it, they are crazy. And you are crazy when you're listening to me like this. You should be, I don't know, because you cannot, like the day job, that was yesterday, now it's weekend. Anyway, like my dots, I have also been able to completely connect only this year. Actually last year, 2019 for me was the year when I started, or not started, but let's say ended my figuring out of what is going on. Meaning that I got the understanding of my life mission in a complete way. Because the difference between complete and partial information is quite big. So imagine when you play chess, if you, no matter how good player you are, but if you miss one of the following you are sure to not like score very well. If you don't see the whole board, if there is some part of the board that is visible to your opponent but not to you, it alone is a thing that in chess makes a great difference. You need to be able to see the same board. Or if you don't know the rules, if there are rules that are known and enforceable to your opponent but not to you, meaning you don't know the rules or you can't play by the same rules. You know, in chess it's a big deal. You need to have the same rules as your opponent knows. Most people don't go this far when they're thinking about what what their strategy or playing situation is. They just focus on what they do see and do know about the rules. But the challenge is that if your opponent has the upper hand in this, then you're not going to go very far. So I go back to my high school time and just quickly mention a few points. So I had the chance to visit 4 exotic countries during high school, and this Japan thingy was a Lions Club youth exchange. Then I also scored well in the national chemistry competition. In fact, I was Finnish champion in high school chemistry in 1999, and during all my 3 high school years I scored among top 4 in chemistry. So I participated in chemistry Olympiads in Melbourne, Australia, and Bangkok, Thailand, and I even won bronze medal. Chemistry is something that I never, I kind of wasn't even that interested in it, and I didn't pay much attention to it. But it resonates with my thinking, because chemistry is it's a natural science. So, well, I don't know how to explain, but for some reason I never excelled in physics like that well, or even in maths, but chemistry was the cool thing. So fast forward, I had the urge to excel, and I'm not talking about that spreadsheet software alone, which, by the way, I started using in 1990. Of course, it wasn't called Excel then; it was called Microsoft Works. That was the the bundle of software, including word processing, spreadsheet, and database. And I think presentation came later. But since we are already in 2020, it means that for 30 years I have excelled in Excel, using it about maybe on average 2 to 4 hours every single day of my life for the past 30 years. So it is my kind of second brain. When I'm thinking, then I open my computer and I open the spreadsheet, and while thinking I am performing putting a formula to one cell and copying it to the others and performing mathematical series and analysis at the same time, because they help me in my thinking. But I wanted to excel in the military also, because military in Finland is especially has been, but still is a common part of society. It is not something weird or distant. It is something because it is mandatory for all males. Everybody must have some sort of decision. They will need to decide where they seek to serve, or whether they want to serve at all, or whether they take the civilian service. So I wanted to serve at the most elite military that was available, and I applied for it. But sadly, the entrance examination happened to be in winter time, and it includes skiing. And I'm not even a bad skier, but the military skiing gear caused the the entrance examination was very ruthless, so if you don't score minimum 1 point in each of the exercises, you know, they kick you out immediately in the middle of the entrance examination, which lasted for 2 days, I think. So what happened to me is that, you know, I was disqualified based on my skiing skills. So Finland lost a probably very challenging, what is that laskuvarjojääkäri in English?
Parachuter.
Yeah, elite parachuter. Because I had started parachuting already before I started military, I thought that it might be useful. I almost killed myself with parachuting, by the way. It was my second jump when I was 18 or 17 actually. And the parachute didn't open properly. It was in like this kind of like messed up, so it didn't have the, what is that, lift, so that the air wasn't keeping there to slow down my descent. So what I noticed it when the sun was touring around me like this, so obviously sun is the stagnant one, and I was the one who was turning around, and it was my second jump. I didn't have the routine to release it and take the extra canopy. So instead I was kind of panicking and trying to, you know, just drag it and get my main canopy working, which it did. But when I checked my altimeter, it was 300 meters only when this happened. So, you know, it wasn't actually too far from death. This is one of my near-death stories that have happened to me. All the elements have tried to kill me, and I have also like tried to kill myself several times because I have had life situations that have been very difficult. But what I did instead is that I went to the second best thing, and that is called Rapid Deployment Force in Pori Brigade. So that was the recently started elite rapid deployment troop, where we were the ones that would be called on duty on special missions. We were the ones who upheld the military readiness of Finland during the change of millennium. I was there, everybody else was celebrating, but we were the ones who were there if somebody would make a threat happening during that celebration night. I was there, you know, water in my glass and drinking and seeing what's going on outside, and we didn't even get extra pay for that. Instead we got 5 kuntoisuusloma, that is special day leave for exemplary performance. And in total I got actually 14 of those during my military service. It was the highest of all the people in my company. So I got 14 days of extra leave based on how excellently I performed. But at the same time that my performance when measuring the high peaks, it was excellent. So I got this, you know, extra leave based on that. At the same time, my low peaks were also detrimental. So they must have had fun when grading me in the military, because they also graded me in the field, like, what is that, field stamina capability class, kenttäkelpoisuusluokka. You know, I actually got the lowest grade. That was 1. And they said that I am not fit for like field service at all. So obviously I know that because I am fit for being a general, but my rank at that time in the army wasn't general, it was actually private. It wasn't even private first class, because their grading is such that they cannot go from private to general, which is sad. In special operations we are doing it, and we have done it. And there are people even sitting among us who go directly from cadet to general level. When I started to see the vision of my life mission the first time, like what am I actually going to build in this world, it happened in 2001, and what I saw is a vision of network of people that are kept together by like information system, like software tools, where they form a network of cooperation between each other, so that all the cooperation is voluntary, and like we provide the tools, and this network is such a cool thing that people will take a choice to join us, and when they join, they raise the value of the network to everybody. So it is the same thing as how technology and society also progress. So that when anyone makes an improvement, like a new scientific discovery or some improvement, then if it's good and beneficial for all, especially if it has network effects, so that when it spreads, the other people start to fear of missing out, so that they also want to join. Yeah, let's take mobile phones for instance. Like in the beginning they were laughed at that, hey, who wants those? But when you realize that all your friends have it and you don't, you cannot just, exclude yourself. So the inventor of mobile phone is nothing like, he didn't want to make a big show out of himself, but he invented something that was so good that it spread all over. So what I realized is that I am going to invent also something likewise that is as good, that good, that it will spread all over. But unlike mobile phones, my thing will be bigger because it will transform the whole world. Actually, I think many of you, when you think about it, mobile phones did transform the whole world, right? As did the internet, as did Bitcoin. So yeah, this is the next big thing, and you heard it from me first, because I am going to transform the world doing this. But at that time, when people start to receive the understanding of their life mission, especially if it's hero level or king level, emperor level, deity level, the levels are so high, and our physical and mental vehicle is so fragile that it happens over decades that you learn this thing. So for me, the learning of my vision started when I found myself sitting on top of a pile of self-made banknotes, because that is something I have done regularly ever since, all the past 35 years. Regardless of internet or Bitcoin, I have always printed my own banknotes. So, but then my life moved on. I was at that time studying in the best university that I had found in Finland, and that is Helsinki University of Technology. Nowadays it's called Aalto University School of Science and Technology. Again, later on, which I didn't know back then, is that the culture of that school is the highest in the world. It's called teekkarikulttuuri. It is something that that preserves elements of the high society in a form that is approachable to laymen who don't come from old money things. For instance, I managed to get my way to these very high things that are there. High things are something that's difficult to even explain, but when you imagine me starting military and chivalric orders, hosting grand dinners of 15 or more courses, organizing them, appointing myself general leading militaries, appointing myself a rector or professor leading schools and doing all kinds of like high activities, yet clearly I am born a peasant from a village. My father literally was a farmer and my brother still is. You start to feel the disconnect, like how is that possible? That there is some kind of disconnect now with this guy's like physical background and his mental like capability. Because geniuses like Napoleon, they just appear to random villages and then they take on like massive duties with utmost skill that they officially never learned anywhere. Except that they did. The life is such that it is leading people to kind of missions. It is just that you don't connect the dots until it is later in life. Like I was led to missions like special operations, and I was led to these 15-course dinners where people would like give speeches and like act using very like old and fine traditions and all those things. It also led me to study economics as my major. So when I would later on start understanding that Bitcoin is a big thing, Bitcoin's constitution, I would be able to adopt to my project so that my project would inherit the characteristic of resilience and exponential growth. And exponential growth in market cap and exponential growth of the value of one Bitcoin, which is rather cool. And like all these things, life has led me through those experiences. So one funny experience in my life was that I had been a Christian for a long time. Actually, I accepted Lord Jesus Christ in 1995 when I was 14, and then I participated in several Christian activities and clubs and denominations and cults even. And when I had married in 2004, I went for a mission trip to both Russia and India. In Russia I actually visited multiple times. We were doing charity work in orphanages, organizing summer camps for them. And since you are here in Special Operations Camp, you know, when I was organizing summer camps for orphan children aged 3 to 16 in the Karelian Isthmus, in the area that used to belong to Finland but is now part of Russia, I was applying the same principles. Obviously, we had a running competition, and then we had the table was the prizes were there on the table. Everybody was running the same race. It didn't like matter if you were 16 or 10 years old. You know, life is inherently not fair, so you got to get used to it. So the 16-year-olds ran the fastest, and they got the best prizes. And Jesus, those guys were fast. They were having like this kind of shoes. One guy, well, obviously not in red suede, but like black leather shoes, so not running shoes. And he finished this 3,000 meter run in less than 12 minutes, I think, if my memory serves me correct. And so that was such a thing. Then I asked him, like, what made you run so fast? And then he said that because you have ASICS DS Trainer number 8 shoes. I mean, my old running shoes that I literally took from my feet to put them there to be the grand prize. So it was so valuable for that guy. I think I had actually run a marathon with those shoes. So if the guy still has them, you know, greetings from the dragon. They are very famous part of the dragon heritage now. But anyway, in India, our plan was, as random as it sounds, we wanted to establish a water buffalo farm so that these buffaloes would be providing milk that would be sold, and also their shit would be sold. The milk would be sold for people's drinks, and their excrement would be sold to feed fishes. In turn, that would be, fed to people. So it was a sobering detail to find out that the shit of the cows is being used to feed fishes. But we found that this theme is not profitable, so we ended up in a missionary tour instead in the Indian villages. And in the Indian villages, the energy was so high that those people had been waiting there, for hours when we would arrive, and then they wouldn't speak any English or anything. They only held their withered hands and these kind of things towards us so that we would heal them. And this was obviously a moment of mindfuck for me, because I had just been a normal guy and not so much I didn't know, what would you do if you had 500 people who had been waiting for you in the scorching sun for the whole day, and they didn't speak your language, but they offered you some holy bottles of anointing oil, and then their hands that are stuck here, and they want you to heal them. What would you do, Saki?
I would take my Bible, preach the gospel in the name of Jesus Christ, and see his miracle power of healing manifest.
Alright, and that's exactly what we did. So we managed to heal them. Even one blind guy was healed, and that is cool, because in the Bible it says that it hasn't happened before Jesus, that blind guy was healed. Except that one was born blind. This one wasn't born blind. He only had a disease that was causing his sight to become worse. And the funny detail was that since in 2004 in Indian villages the water was such that you shouldn't drink as a Westerner. It has a different bacterial composition. So we needed to bring our own water. Except that bottled water didn't exist. It was so many years ago. The only thing that you found bottled was soft drinks. They already did. So we had a portable fridge in our car, and it was full of Coca-Cola in glass bottles, 200 milliliters, glass bottles, those fancy bottles. So that was what we drank during this mission of physical salvation of Indian, people. So we would bless them with one hand and drink ice cold Coca-Cola with the other one, because that was the only safe thing to drink.